Alright everybody, so the main focus this week is going to be on this equation right here. Phones equals money. Now you can thank our amazing analytics branch for that breakthrough. It is truly mind-blowing stuff they're doing over there, but I digress. Our company as a whole is trying to get deeper into the mobile gaming market. You know, it's a booming industry, so we want a piece of that pie, and by pie I mean profits. Alright, so going forward guys, I want you to always keep the company slogan in mind. If they aren't having fun, they aren't giving us enough money.
A mobile game with scummy monetization? Huh, never heard that one before.
There's one.
With the climate of mobile games almost exclusively shifting to a free-to-play, give-me-your-money business model in the years since their inception, it's not really a surprise to hear about them begging for your minimum wage paycheck nowadays. In 2021 alone, the mobile game market brought in, get ready, $90 billion in revenue. For those out of the loop, that could buy you at least one GameCube game on eBay. Mobile gaming now has a majority hold of the entire gaming market in general actually, sitting at about a 52% share of it. Sorry Xbox, there's a new king on the throne. Literally. Yes, you technically can blame your grandma for the state of gaming today. Go ahead, do it.
What the f*** were you thinking?
But Nintendo would never make a mobile game like that, right? Well, at first they actually didn't. Super Mario Run was a buy once, own and play forever type of game without any other microtransactions. Well, there was Miitomo before that, but it doesn't count since it doesn't even exist anymore. After this though, they realized that charging people $10 whole for a less than mediocre mobile gaming experience wasn't gonna fly. Ever since 2017, with the release of Fire Emblem Heroes, the parasitic free-to-play model has been slowly leaking into Nintendo's mobile games. Now, we can sit here and argue all day about which is the worst of them all, but I'm not going to do that. Specifically, I want to take a look at Mario Kart Tour. This game definitely wasn't the first time Nintendo tried to sneak in the little dollar signs, but by the time this released in late 2019, they really had pulled a complete 180 from Super Mario Run, for better or for worse.
Spoiler alert, it was for worse.
Now, before I talk about the monetization of this game, I want to talk about how it works, because without that context, it really won't make sense as to why it is so predatory. So, as the name heavily suggests, Mario Kart Tour has tours. Each one lasts 2 weeks, and they essentially serve as a way to rotate in and out existing tracks as well as introduce new ones. There's usually one new track per tour, whether it be original or taken from a previous game, and the rest are tracks that have been available before, obviously. Not every track is available at once though. Like I said, they operate on a rotation. We'll see why this matters later. Once you're actually in a race in Mario Kart Tour, the main focus all comes down to racking up the highest score possible. Your final score determines your overall rewards. Yes, you can technically win even when doing as bad as last place, as long as your score is high enough. Points are added to the total score by performing actions. What are actions, you may ask? Well, they can be just about anything. Using items, hitting people with items, driving over boost pads, doing tricks off of ramps, crossing the finish line, and even assaulting innocent wildlife.
You listen to me. They're gonna run you over.
Certain actions are worth more than others, and crossing the finish line actually awards you more points based on which place you were in. Stringing actions together will build up a combo. The higher the combo, the more points you will earn per action. However, if you let too much time pass between two actions, the combo will end and you will be reverted back to the base point values for each action. You think that was complicated? Well, buckle up, idiot, it gets way worse. These types of games thrive off of unnecessary complexity in order to offer up as many monetization avenues as possible. That wasn't even the tip of the iceberg. In Mario Kart Tour, every single one of the absolute plethora of drivers has their own set of favorite tracks. On a driver's favorite track, they receive 3 items every time they hit an item box. These drivers also have a smaller list of favored tracks that award 2 items per box. This means that if the track is not in the favorites list, the player is put at an immediate disadvantage, even more so if the track isn't even listed as favored, which means they would only be getting 1 item per box. Now, the kicker here is that with this game, you don't start with a ton of drivers already unlocked. In fact, you start with 0, and the game gives you a few for free at the beginning. After that, though, you're stuck obtaining them on your own, which isn't super enjoyable, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The point is that having as many drivers as possible is very important because of this whole favorite track list thing. On top of this, karts and gliders also have their own list of favorite and favored tracks. For karts, the amount of bonus points earned from actions is doubled for favorite tracks and multiplied by 1.5 for favored ones. For gliders, the bonus from holding combos is tripled for favorite tracks and doubled for favored ones. In addition, for gliders, the length of the grace period between combo actions is increased dramatically for favorite tracks, with a bit less of an increase for favored ones. Also, who the hell thought it was a good idea to name them favorite and favored? They're 2 very similar sounding words that make such a big difference in the mechanics of the game. Couldn't you have used something else, like preferred, for example? The biggest benefit to using a driver on their favorite track is the chance of getting into an item frenzy. A frenzy occurs whenever the player matches 3 of the same item after hitting an item box. Once they have entered into one, for a short period of time they can continuously spam the hell out of whatever item they entered into a frenzy with, racking up an insane amount of points in the process, especially if you were already holding a high combo beforehand. On top of this, you're completely invulnerable to all items and hazards during this period. Of course, some items are better to pull frenzies on than others, with the coin box being the absolute best, which literally just spews coins uncontrollably right in front of the player for them to collect. And just as a reminder, every single time they collect one of these coins, it counts as an action and will add to their point total. Anyways, after the player completes a race, they are awarded between 1 and 5 Grand Stars based on their final score. Grand Stars are a form of currency that resets at the start of every tour. They contribute to a reward system similar to the Battle Pass model found in many other games. Get more Grand Stars, unlock more rewards. These rewards can range from coins, to drivers, karts, or gliders, or even to tickets, which we'll talk about soon enough. You can also gain additional Grand Stars by completing challenges that also change with each tour, or by completing short missions at the end of each cup that are similar to the mission system from Mario Kart DS. Predictably enough, you can gain even more rewards by typing in those goofy little numbers on Mommy's card, but that's also something that I don't want to get into just yet. I think that's enough information to understand the basics of how the game functions though. There are a few more added layers of complexity on top of what I already mentioned, but it makes more sense to go over those specifically as they come up later. However, now it's time to talk about the money-making practices this game employs. So, to start, let's go back to the concept of tours. Every time a new track is introduced at the start of a tour, a new driver, kart, and glider is also introduced alongside it. Obtaining these shiny new things is where pipes come into the picture. Pipes are essentially the main way of obtaining drivers, karts, and gliders in Mario Kart Tour, and just for convenience's sake, I will now be referring to all 3 of them collectively as loadout parts. Pipes operate like any gacha machine. You can pay 5 rubies, the game's premium currency, to pull from the pipe once. Alternatively, you can pay 45 rubies to pull 10 times, so you are essentially rewarded for saving them up by getting what is basically one free pull. Now, instead of just being disappointed, you can be disappointed at a 10% discount. Let me tell you though, pulling from these pipes sure is engaging. Now, obviously, there is always going to be a pipe containing the brand new drivers, karts, and gliders. In fact, these specific loadout parts are what is known as being in the spotlight of the pipe. The way pipes work is that they contain a set number of loadout parts and you are essentially pulling from a pool until it's empty. This is much better than most gacha machines, as you are always guaranteed to get the spotlight parts eventually if you pull the entire pipe. You can even reset it and fill it back up at any point to try your odds again, and obviously allow another opportunity for you to give them your money. Most pipes contain either 50 or 100 items, so it will cost you between 225 and 450 rubies to completely empty them. And yes, in the context of this game, that is a lot. Hundreds of dollars worth, actually. Now, to be entirely fair, there are ways to earn enough rubies to pull from the pipe without spending nearly as much money or even no money at all, but you'll never be earning enough to pull 10 items more than 3 or 4 times within the week where the pipe is relevant, and that's when you're really lucky. There is absolutely no way, without spending a lot of money, that you are emptying a pipe unless you save up throughout the course of multiple tours beforehand. Which isn't even worth it anyway. You're much better off just trying your luck at getting the spotlights with the small amount of pulls you can actually afford. Anyways, let's slap yet another layer of complexity onto this, shall we? You may have already noticed that the portraits for some of the drivers' carts and gliders were, let's say, a bit more shiny than the others. Loadout parts actually come in 3 rarities, that being normal, super, and high end. As with most games using this model, high end is the rarest type with the best stats and longest list of favorite tracks. But it also has the largest number of loadout parts associated with it, absolutely demolishing both normal and super combined in terms of pure quantity. This is because the loadout parts in the spotlight during every single tour are always high end. It simply makes sense that the parts you pay money for are going to be the best ones, but when you take a look at the drop chances of these, you start to see where it becomes predatory. The chances of getting a high end out of one of these pipes is 0.5%. Granted, that chance goes up as you start to empty the pipe, but it will still always be a pretty low chance for the most part, unless the pipe is already basically empty. There are a total of 6 high ends in most pipes, with 3 of them being in the spotlight. Luckily, being in the spotlight increases the chances of being pulled by 5 times, coming out to a grand total of a 2.5% chance of pulling an item in the spotlight, which is still pretty low, but an improvement nonetheless. But theoretically speaking, and it seems that this does happen often, you could pay a pretty large amount of money to pull quite a few times from these pipes and still get nothing of use. I know that's simply just the nature of a gacha system in general, but it needed to be said either way. You call it a game of chance, I call it permitting underage gambling. Honestly, this is even worse than gambling. You're putting money in, but you never get anything of actual monetary value back. Unfortunately, Mario Baseball isn't worth anything on the real world market.
Well, there goes my plans of making some money on the side.
Even further, like I already said, the tours are always set up in a way that greatly benefits anyone who manages to get the spotlights from the pipe. The first track in a tour is always going to be on the new driver's favorite track list, along with the new kart and glider, so you're encouraged to go for all 3. If you're unlucky enough to not have any loadout parts with that track on its favorite list at all, which is really common with new tracks, then your chances of getting all 5 Grand Stars for that race is dramatically decreased. But not to worry, Grandma's social security check can help you out there. Just drop some cash, empty the pipe, and you're good to go.
Listen, I'm sorry for yelling at you earlier, but when does your social security check come in? I need it for school.
It gets worse though. As crazy as that may sound, other pipes are often available throughout the tour that will contain loadout parts with all of the other tracks in the tour on their favorite list. In addition, sometimes they'll even just sell you specific drivers, karts, or gliders outright in these so-called special offers. I'm sorry, but there's nothing special about charging me $40 for a glider and some rubies. That is robbery. At that point, you might as well just strip me down and leave me in a field while you're at it. You can always count on the game to give you an opportunity to throw money at it in order to gain an advantage. That's how this whole thing works. There's a saying that has been used many times before, but it really does describe this well. Create the problem, sell the solution. It's a tried and true formula to trick the gullible and desperate while pissing off everyone else. However, getting enough Grand Stars to unlock all the rewards isn't the only motivator present to make sure you have the correct loadout for each track. Each week, one cup in the tour is designated as the Ranked Cup. The total combined score of the 3 races in the cup is used to place you on a small leaderboard with a group of players within the same tier as you. Tiers are a way of ranking the quote-unquote skill level of players. Skill is a very strong word here for reasons you can probably already guess, but I'll talk about that soon enough. Placing high enough on the leaderboard and staying there until the end of the week will upgrade you to a higher tier, and in higher tiers, placing too low on the leaderboard can cause you to drop down to a lower tier. Depending on your placement for the week, you will receive rewards of increasing value. Some will even receive rewards even if they don't end up advancing to the next tier, or even if they drop down to a lower tier. Now, these rewards are pretty substantial, especially at higher tiers, so there's a big incentive to try and place high on these leaderboards. But as you may have guessed, these cups are structured in a way that heavily encourages digging in your wallet as much as possible. All of the tracks placed in a ranked cup will handsomely reward you for having the spotlight parts from that specific week, as all of the tracks present within the cup will be present on the new loadout parts favorite track list, for the most part. So unless you happen to have another loadout that also has the tracks in the cup marked as favorite, which is especially unlikely for newer players, then your only option to stand a chance against someone who does have the correct loadout is to, say it with me, spend money. Now would probably be a good time to talk about leveling up, as it's also something that can dramatically affect how you place in ranked cups. There are two types of level ups in Mario Kart Tour. First, there is an overall player level, which is increased simply by placing well in races. The higher your player level, the more points you receive for crossing the finish line, with the max level currently being 300. To my knowledge, not one person has even reached this level yet, if that gives you any indicator as to how f***ing long it takes to level up. Luckily though, there is no way to pay money to boost the amount of XP you get or anything. This system is basically just designed to keep you playing, and give you more opportunities to spend money. The second type of level applies to drivers, karts, and gliders. You'd think the complexity with loadout parts had gone far enough by now. Well, no one is surprised at this point, but it gets even worse. Every single driver, kart, and glider each has its own individual level, with the maximum level currently being 8. Leveling these up can increase your chances of a frenzy, upgrade some items obtained from item boxes, multiply the number of bonus points you earned, add even more favorite courses to the list, or lengthen the time allowed between combo actions. If you can't already tell, this can make a huge difference in your score in any race, and obviously is the most important within the ranked cups, as I already said. You may be asking, how do you level these up though? Well, the first way would be from obtaining a duplicate of any loadout part you already own. This will add to a meter that, when filled, will level up the part, increasing its stats in one or multiple of the ways I just mentioned. And the meter will take more duplicates to fill as the levels get higher. This isn't that bad though. It's not completely unreasonable that the average player would ever max out anything's level in this game. Nonsense! However, duplicates aren't the only way to level these things up. Say hello to tickets. Now, the wide variety of tickets can be used for a range of things, such as substitutes for Grand Stars, or even as a way to unlock cups before they officially release. But there are also tickets that can be used to upgrade the level of drivers, karts, and gliders. Even worse, there are separate types for each rarity and each type of loadout part. It is this segmented on purpose. You could have a high-end upgrade ticket, but it's not a high-end driver upgrade ticket, so you're unable to upgrade your driver. Though it is important to note that each ticket only counts as a substitute for one duplicate of a loadout part. The final type of ticket is the point boost ticket. Each driver, kart, and glider in the game also has its own individual base point value that will automatically add on to the total at the start of the race. This value can be raised either by simply racing and earning the upgrades in the same way you raise your player level, or via the tickets, which aren't as badly segmented but are still separated between driver, kart, and glider. There is a hard cap for base points, which is higher depending on whether you're using a normal, super, or high-end loadout part, because of course that's the case. And I actually lied, there is one more type of ticket. This base points value cap can be raised even higher with what are known as points cap tickets. The cap can be raised on loadout parts up to 3 times, but just like with the levels, it's completely unreasonable that any average player could feasibly raise the cap fully. So, with that explanation of all the convoluted, unnecessarily confusing, and downright scummy systems out of the way, I want to pose the question, are there any redeeming qualities to all of this? Well, remember when I was talking about the Battle Pass type reward system earlier and the fact that you could pay money to gain even more rewards? Well, that payment is known as the Gold Pass. The Gold Pass is $4.99 per month and unlocks an entirely new set of rewards on top of the original ones available without it. This would actually include the rewards of 2 entire tours, since they only last for 2 weeks each and you're paying for an entire month with the Gold Pass. In addition, an entire new page of challenges is unlocked that can make the process of gathering Grand Stars a bit more efficient. On top of that, every 3 months, Gold Pass owners are given an extra reward just for continuing to be subscribed. This pass is by far the best value for your money available in this game by a long shot. Every other offer seems like a scam in comparison. Consequently, paying for the Gold Pass has been the only money I've ever spent on this game, and to an extent, it does help to keep you up to date with the latest loadout parts in the spotlight, and contributes towards upgrading your existing ones, way more so than if you didn't have the pass, but you're giving them money. If that wasn't the case, why would this even exist? The next best thing after the Gold Pass are probably the Premium Challenges, which is another $4.99, but this time you would be paying every tour instead of every month. Either way, you are once again giving the game money and then still having to work for the rewards anyway. Just yet another scummy tactic to keep people playing as much as possible. Even worse though is that along with this, there are the Premium Challenges Plus, which cost $15 per tour to unlock, and they still don't give nearly as many rewards as the Gold Pass does. If you can, with good conscience, give money to this game, then the Gold Pass is your absolute best bet at getting that bang for your buck. I can't really recommend any other purchase because the dollar to reward ratio is just so much worse than the pass that it simply doesn't make sense at all. Don't fall for it, or they'll wring you dry and leave you evicted on the streets eating out of a dumpster behind a Fazoli's.
That sounded really personal, man. Do you need help? You shut the f*** up right now!
At this point, you may be wondering how much of a factor skill really accounts for in Mario Kart Tour. Well, I can confidently tell you that there is at least some skill involved in succeeding with this game. Big emphasis on some though, and even that may be a generous term to use. Regardless, you are able to learn certain techniques that can, for example, allow you to hold combos for longer and more consistently gain the highest amount of points possible. In fact, some techniques from the real Mario Kart games translate over to this one as well, such as deflecting projectiles by holding them behind you, or hoarding items to use at just the right time, though the latter can be argued a bit in some circumstances that don't really make sense to get into in the context of this conversation. For the most part though, this game purely comes down to luck. Luck in whether or not you'll pull the spotlight from the pipe, luck in the amount of frenzies you'll trigger during a race and which item the frenzies use, luck in whether you get what is known as Mario Karted, aka being unfairly pummeled with items and sent to last place and having to repeatedly restart a race in order to get the score you want. The list goes on. The one thing that all of these luck factors have in common though is that you can pay money to decrease the amount of luck needed to succeed in any of these categories. It's as simple as that. With a game designed at its core to keep you playing and paying for as long as possible, as most free-to-play games these days are, you have to wonder why people even play it in the first place. If the developers feel the need to put systems in place specifically designed to coax you into coming back to the game as often as possible, wouldn't that mean that the game is just straight up bad? Well, for the most part, yes. By most game design standards, Mario Kart Tour really doesn't have that much substance, even with all of these convoluted systems. It's all based around a simple gameplay loop that essentially boils down to grinding in order to see numbers go up. It's not a novel concept by any means. In the end though, regardless of all of this, you could technically still treat Mario Kart Tour as a mainline Mario Kart game if you wanted to, and best of all, it's completely free. Free players have full access to every single track the day it releases, so you could simply get on the game, enjoy the new tracks when they release, and not care about any of this favorite track base point values and frenzy chance nonsense. You're entirely allowed to mooch off Nintendo and play this game as much as you want. I would condone that behavior any day of the week, but it's not like it matters. They could have thousands and thousands of free players, and one big spender could make up for all of them. That's just how these games work. And the worst part is, there's basically nothing we can do about it. Despite how it may seem, the amount of people who actually care and speak out about these manipulative monetization models is an extremely small minority. I mean, all you have to do is look at the app's review scores on either platform to figure that out for yourself. Most people either don't care or fall for the game's tricks and end up in the perpetual purchase cycle. What I'm saying is that Joe Schmo from down the street doesn't really put much thought into the morality behind the game's monetization. He just thinks Waluigi looks cool in a vampire outfit. I mean, he does, but I'm sure as hell not going to pay $40 for it. For as long as this proverbial Joe Schmo exists and continues to be oblivious or simply not care, companies will continue to implement monetization like this into their games, and it's only going to get worse. And no, it does not make it okay to monetize like this just because the game is free. These practices are manipulative and predatory, free or not. They prey on the careless and unknowing, with the end goal being to suck them into that cycle I just mentioned. They basically become a constant source of income for the company just from playing one single game. There's a reason why games like these are just outright banned in some countries. They are truly meant to take advantage of people like Joe Schmo and lure in anyone else with some money burning a hole in their wallet. Luckily, if you can even say that, Mario Kart Tour is in no way the worst example of this pay-to-win monetization model, but it's in no way good either. If I had it my way, pay-to-win in general would be illegal in any game involving multiplayer features, because that's the whole incentive to paying in the first place, right? Feeling superior to other players. The thing is, you can still have this superiority for the most part if your monetization only features fancy cosmetic items, which I think is completely fine to have in a game. Either way, even though Mario Kart Tour isn't the worst of them all, to me it makes much more sense to stop it before it reaches that point.
Okay, so next order of business. PR department makes me put this up here and acknowledge it. Customer satisfaction is at an all-time low. But I think whoever put this post-it note up here hit it right on the nose. Was that you, John? I knew it. Guys, John couldn't be any more right. Who cares? When we got this over here, why does this matter? It doesn't. It really doesn't.